Hey kids, Mr. B here for our Wednesday social studies lesson. And at the beginning of this lesson, at least last year, I had a question that posed and it said, who discovered America? And I would say probably 99% of the children say Columbus. And I get that. Number one, I have to say it's really hard to discover, and I put the definition of discover in there, to find something unexpectedly or to find something when you're searching for it when it's already been found. I think that's kind of tough. Like if there was a reward out for a lost dog in your neighborhood and it said $500 reward if found. You couldn't go to the person's house after the dog was already found and say, "Hey, I discovered your dog. I'd like the $500 reward." That's not how it works. Because we have to remember that Native Americans were already here, so someone had already discovered America. If we want to get super technical about it. Then there comes the question of who actually discovered America. And that is a very tricky question. And we're going to get into some things here that might change your mind about some things. The honest answer, again, I think, is Native Americans. They were here first. If we're saying explorers, many people would say Christopher Columbus. And then you might need to say, well, when you're saying Americas, what are you talking? North America, South America? What are you talking about? Because the Americas are rather huge if you look at it as North America and South America all together. Because truth be told, Columbus never even set foot in North America, and we'll get to that later. However, one person that the historical data shows that probably did step into North American land, maybe not where we live in America, but in up closer to Canada, was a Viking explorer called Leif Erikson. He was returning home to Greenland, and we can look at that on a map a little later. Probably should have put that in there. But he landed somewhere, and he called the place that he landed Vinland, mainly because of all of the wild grapes that grew there. And he also recognized that the soil there was really good for growing other things. Some of the things that I've read said that he actually set up an outpost there, almost like a small colony. But again, we don't think we really need to get too deep into that because that's really not what we're leading up to. We just need to understand that when I say America, the America that we live in was discovered at some point, and that's when things get very important for us. But we're kind of looking at who was the actual person to discover it. So again, I think I'm still leaning towards, if the honest answer is Native Americans. Did other people come across it and step foot there? Sure. And maybe you could say Christopher Columbus discovered the Americas, North America and South America, for Europe because people from there hadn't been there, although there are some documents that might contradict that. But you could say Leif Erikson was the person who discovered it for his people, the Vikings, because up until then, the Vikings hadn't really stepped foot in America that we know of. Christopher Columbus. The reason why we're going to focus on him is we're going to look a little closer at the effects he had in, and I say discovering in quotation marks there, discovering America, because it was his voyages, should probably put an S in there, his voyages that eventually ended up starting all of the exploration and then the colonization, which is what we really are going to get into, the colonization of the Americas. And so that is actually a rather important thing for that. It was his four main voyages that really started to lead to Europe starting to say, hey, we're big, we're powerful, let's expand our territory to other places so that they can make more money with different resources that they would pull out of these new places, or new to them at least. Columbus was a sailor, and he really did love exploring. He had pretty much sailed and explored all of the seas that were charted out and mapped out. And one of his things that he really wanted to do was find a newer, faster trade route to the Indies. And he was basically wanting to do that so he could become even more rich. Because he wasn't like super rich, but he wanted to become like super wealthy. So he thought instead of sailing to the east, he would sail to the west. Again, that is an expensive ordeal. He didn't have the money for that. So he started talking to some different leaders. He talked to kings and queens, and he first tried to get King John of Portugal to pay his way. And King John said, dude, like, we already have a route. It's already charted. We have the maps. Why are you trying to do something silly? And Columbus was like, because I think I can find a shorter way. Columbus had really underestimated the size of the earth. And so his route was not going to be quicker. And although he thought he had discovered a different way to the Indies, and that's why he called some of the people where he landed Indians, he later found out that's not exactly where he was. However, he did convince Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand of Spain to pay for the trip. So he needed lots of money, so he convinced some people in Spain to fund his trip. So he set sail, right? We've all heard Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492. He had 3 ships with him, the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. It was a really long and scary voyage. And we'll realize here later on that they didn't hit land until I think it's like in October. And it got really bad at one point, and the people on the boat were like, dude, seriously, we're gonna take over the ship, maybe even throw you overboard. If you don't turn these ships around right now and head back home, because we don't think we're ever getting where we're supposed to be. You said it would be a short trip, and it's turned into a ridiculous amount of time. And Columbus said, hey guys, seriously, listen, give me a couple more days. I miscalculated 2 more days, and I promise if we don't find it in 2 days, I'll turn around. We later found out that he wrote in his journal that that was a huge lie. He never intended on turning around. He was going to get to wherever he needed to go so he could make a lot of money and end up paying back the king and queen because he had been loaned a lot of money. But he had no intention of going back. So kind of a sneaky dude. I think he's a pretty sneaky guy. On October 12th, that was October, wasn't it? So you're talking August to September, September to October. So you're talking a little over 2 months. I can't imagine spending 2 months on one of those ships. This is not a Disney cruise. There aren't fancy meals. There's no running showers. I imagine sitting next to someone that hadn't showered and had been working hard and stunk and was sweating, and the only thing they do is maybe dump some seawater over their head to take a shower for 2 months, and you don't have a lot of food, and you can't drink the ocean water. We've talked about that before when we talked about ecosystems. It probably got really bad. No wonder they wanted to throw him overboard and turn around. But he found, not America, he found a small island in the Bahamas that he named San Salvador. He met natives there that he called Indians because he thought he was on the other coast of East Asia. He went to some other places in the Caribbean as well. He ended up in Cuba, in Hispaniola, and some different places as well. But he never really landed in what we consider America. So Columbus never really landed in North America? No. He had 4 trips, with the one that started in 1492, and he was all around the Caribbean islands and the Bahamas. He went to Central and South America on the coast, but he never reached North America. And obviously, North America and South America and Central America were already inhabited by Native Americans. He didn't find or discover anything. So if he wasn't first, why does he get all the credit? Why is he such a famous person? Well, the big thing is that he opened up America, or the Americas, to Europe, who at the time had the most power, and they were expanding, and they were trying to grow their empires. And the one big way to do that was to colonize other land areas, claim it as their own, and start using all the resources there to build their wealth up. He was the one that made it possible for them to conquer the Western Hemisphere and to bring diseases should be in there. I don't know why that's not in there. Diseases and other bad things that we will get to a little bit later about how they brought diseases and other things. I got to make a note. Give me a second to note. I'll tell you to go fix that slide. All right. Um, he wasn't the first, and neither was Leif and the Vikings. There were people already there, and these people were called the Native Americans. So what do we do with all this? Well, hopefully you've been taking some notes. If not, you will have access to this Nearpod, and you can go back, or you can just go back and listen to this video and scrub your way through and find the things that you want to. But you're going to have another one of those Google Forms to take today. Just a short 10-question quiz on this. And then after this, it's going to let us jump into when these European nations decided, hey, let's start colonizing some places. And then we're going to jump into that. And we're really going to look a lot closer at the interactions between the settlers and the Native Americans. And we're going to form our opinions on who we think was in the right, who we think was in the wrong. Was it maybe a little bit on both sides? And we'll discuss that as well. I just wanted to give you an idea. I didn't want to just jump into, boom, all of a sudden there's settlers coming here. I wanted to give you the reason and the background as to why. And I think we can lay some of that at Columbus's feet and say, had he not started all of the exploring and letting the European nations know, hey, there is some other stuff out this way, and it's not what we thought it was. It's new to them, new land. And that meant for the people in the European nations time to make some more money, which is what everybody was all about, was making more money and getting more resources so that you could be the most powerful nation. And we will get into that soon. All right, that's all I've got for today. Short video, short quiz. You'll be done in less than 30 minutes, I hope. And I look forward to seeing you either in class or on Zoom on Thursday.